Welcome everybody to the third episode of the Behind the Brand series with Klaviyo. We're here today to talk about elevating your SMS marketing strategy through partnerships and having the right tech in place to support that. We're going to wait a few minutes for everybody to get pulled in here, so just hang tight with us so we let some folks filter into the room, and we'll get started shortly. Guys, thanks so much for joining me here today. I'm so excited to chat with you both.
Great to be here.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Very good. So we're filming on a Friday.
Yep.
What are you guys getting up to this weekend?
It'll be a quiet weekend for me, I think. We're down in Melbourne at the Yakka office, so flying back up to Brizzy and then spend some time with the family, I think, get ready for next week.
Very good. Very good. What about you, Justin?
Be back on the soccer pitch tomorrow.
It's back
having
on the
a run
soccer
around.
pitch.
Yeah,
All right.
Bit of work around the home, so yeah.
Very
pretty
good.
cruisy otherwise.
Very good.
How about you, Mitch?
What am I up to this
Yeah.
weekend? I'm camping this weekend.
Oh,
Oh, nice.
Yes, we're going to get out in nature a little bit this weekend, have some fun,
Yeah.
That sounds
which
great.
I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
Normally I would try to golf, which I think you're a golfer, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I love it. I'll also try to golf this weekend. I think. Yeah.
You hit the range, or you think you'll get a game in or two?
I'll get a game in.
That's the spirit.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah,
spirit.
shoot for the top racket the whole game.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You gonna go hiking?
I think so. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we're gonna try to. There's a couple mountains that we're gonna try to get up if we
Yeah.
can this weekend, and
Yeah.
just enjoy some outdoor weather.
Yeah.
So, although
Yeah.
I will admit it's cold out here in Melbourne, so
Yeah.
it's I think if we can avoid that level of
Yeah.
chill, I'll be a happy
You'll do all
camper.
right in Sydney.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Good training for the marathon too. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good
Yeah.
training for the marathon.
Yeah.
Very good. So, what position are you playing soccer?
Centre defensive mid.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Could be a lot of running, or it could just be standing in the middle of the pitch and just feeding the ball as it comes to you. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I hope you win your game this weekend.
Thank you. Fingers crossed.
Yes,
Yeah,
fingers crossed
yeah,
for you. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we'll get started. I want to welcome everybody here officially, like I said before, to the second episode of our Behind the Brand series. If you're just jumping in with us, welcome. We're going to get started here right away. So my name is Mitch. I work for the Klaviyo team, and I work more specifically in helping our existing customers really expand their usage of the Klaviyo platform and really find ways that it can feed in and ultimately accelerate their usage in their marketing stack. So I've been with the business for about 8 years now, spent about 6 years in the States in our headquarters based in Boston, and have recently moved out here to help support our APAC-based customers out of our Sydney office. So I'm super excited to be joined here today with both Justin and Jason from Yakka and from Andzen. But I'm going to start with you, Justin. Give us a little bit about yourself and the Yakka brand.
Yeah, totally. So no, great to be here today. So yeah, my name's Justin Williams. I'm the Senior Digital Marketing and E-commerce Manager for Yakka. Been with the company for just over 3.5 years now. Basically, my remit looks after our .com website, the trading of it, as well as all our social media, online content, digital media, social media, and then CRM and database and SMS, which is what we're here to talk about today. The Yakka brand is one of the oldest workwear brands in Australia, so it's quite a privilege to be a current custodian of it. So originated in 1930 by David K. Laidlaw here out of Melbourne, Brunswick specifically. Basically the first several decades was really cementing its position in the workwear market, so setting up facilities, distribution, really getting the brand name out there. Through the 1970s, it really came to notoriety with some famous commercials, being like the Railway TVC. We introduced the Yakka chant, written by Mike Brady. Really took the brand to another level from there. In more recent times, we've expanded and taken the brand overseas into Europe and through Asia as well. But we haven't lost, I guess, the ethos that the brand was created around by David K. Laidlaw, which is to create hardworking workwear apparel for hardworking people. So we embed that in our current positioning, which is Yakka, nothing's tougher, which is a guiding principle for everything we do. Interestingly, in terms of the market, there's been a lot of change recently with, the blending of lifestyle, kind of fashion and workwear. So with that, we've really had to evolve our strategy in recent years, and there's been a lot of new entrants into the market as well from more a lifestyle background. So it's created a really interesting sort of new dynamic that we are having to navigate, but which is why, sticking to our core, sticking to the ethos, continuing to innovate and bringing more sort of style focused trends into our workwear has been really key. So yeah, really excited to be here and yeah, keen to get into it.
Well, look, we really appreciate you taking the time and letting us spend some time to talk about it. So we'll get into all that here in just a second, and I promise I probably won't make you do the hard Yakka chant along the way here.
I'm ready when you need
yeah,
it.
look out. Well, Jason, over to you. Give us a little bit of background on yourself and Andzen.
Thanks, Mitch. So we're Andzen, we're an elite Klaviyo master partner and have been a Klaviyo partner since 2016, but as Andzen, we've been around for a little bit over a decade now. We actually used to be an email and SMS marketing platform a bit over a decade ago, but once that platform was acquired, we started the agency, and that's really what gives us our edge, I think, our time in the market, having been a email and SMS expert for so long, but also having been a platform, we really understand what it means to collect data, integrate your systems, make sure your tools are speaking to each other, and then make sure you're using the channels that you have at your disposal really effectively. So as well as being a partner of Klaviyo's, we're also a partner of a lot of the platforms that manage those one-to-one experiences that you can think of when you're shopping online. So things like product reviews, product returns, customer loyalty, building up bespoke loyalty programs. These are all kind of areas that we help merchants navigate when it comes to both choosing their tech stack, but then also how do they strategically implement those tools to create an experience that does feel personalized and branded for their customers.
Awesome. Well, I'm super excited to pick your brain in a whole bunch of different ways today. And I know that you guys have been partnered together, right? So I think we're going to get some really interesting insights from both sides of the spectrum. And I'm super excited to dive into that today. Justin, I'll kick it over to you. So you gave us a little bit of background on Hard Yakka's brand. Walk us through who your customers are and who are kind of the audiences that you're serving today.
Yeah, so it's a pretty broad range. It's essentially every tradie in Australia. So men and women, everything from sort of heavy industrial construction and mining sectors through to residential chippies, electricians, plumbers, that type of thing. We also have our segment of DIYers, so people that like to get out there and have a go on the weekend. And then in more recent times, through the changing of the market sort of trends, bringing in that lifestyle segment. So people that really do only shop with us to purchase like the non-safety worker or the more style-focused ranges as well. So it's quite an interesting mix, but essentially what they all are looking for is tough, durable apparel and work boots to get a job done. And if it looks good, then tick.
Yeah, I'm definitely in that category. I remember when I bought my house, my first trip to Bunnings, buying my first lawnmower and hedge trimmer, I picked up a pair of hard Yakka pants, pretty convinced I was going to need something tough for wrangling my suburban yard.
Yeah. You can't have anything too tough.
Yeah.
It's the weekend kit, right?
Yeah,
you gotta get that ready to go.
Yeah.
Well, that's like a lot of different customer cohorts that you guys tackle. Like, how do you think about servicing so many different types of customers, all obviously with the same ethos, but does that change the way you approach that in any way?
Well, as I said, we did have to evolve our product strategy to meet, I guess, the trends we're seeing in the market and cater to more style conscious trading and workwear shopping. Outside of that though, I guess having a really clear brand strategy and plan embedded through the organisation has been crucial. So that nothing's tougher positioning and all the attributes that flow off the back of that is crucial to ensure we maintain consistent and desirable in market for our target market. So some of those attributes are things like authenticity, toughness, obviously, not being pretentious, mateship, like relatably Australian, both in terms of how we present ourselves locally and abroad these days. It's really important that we embody that in everything we do. And I think internally, sort of behind the scenes, really strong collaboration between our marketing, sales, merchandise teams, our customer service teams to ensure that we're all on the same page, getting behind that brand positioning. And our people do also embody the same ethos. A lot of Hard Yakka people working for Hard Yakka too. So good collective.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's just so interesting and so important, and probably one of the main reasons that for the last 90 to 100 years, you guys have been one of the main brands in Australia, which is incredible. So now you guys sell both in-store B2B, but then also in more of a B2C context. Like, how does that experience get balanced?
Yeah, great question. So we are primarily a wholesale business. So we have a national distribution network of trusted retail partners from your workwear and safety stores through to your national retailers like your Bunnings that Jace frequents. And yeah, obviously those relationships are really important to us. We get a lot of feedback. We do a lot of specific strategies and product for certain retail partners as well. But from a marketing perspective, what's really crucial is that we're all about growing the brand, and that will benefit our wholesale customers. And obviously the B2C, especially the digital channels, is a great way for us to connect in with the right audiences to continue that brand growth, which then does do a couple of jobs. Yes, online sales, fantastic, but more importantly, we're driving that consideration and hopefully increased levels of foot traffic and demand in store for our wholesale partners. So what we'll focus on today is the B2C component, which is very much what I focus on. It's in my remit, but yeah, that's just good context in terms of how the business is structured.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And I think so many businesses are in multiple different types of footprints, and very rarely do we see businesses that are, just sitting in kind of one pillar or the next. So your insight today will be very interesting. So I appreciate
the
that.
demand gen it goes both ways, right? A lot of what we're doing is connecting with fans of the brand directly, but that isn't to say that those customers aren't fans of their local distributor at the same time, and they might get the messaging from Hard Yakka, but when it comes to shopping, their first order is to maybe go in store or shop online as they kind of need.
Yeah. And it's been an interesting evolution. You and I were chatting about this the other day of just kind of the actual customer base of Hard Yakka, because you get folks that are just starting out their apprenticeship, and then you have folks that have been wearing Hard Yakka for the last 50, 60, 70 years, right? So like you guys have done a lot of really interesting things around kind of brand collaborations and some other ways that you can start to speak to different types of audiences. But I think how do you guys think about managing such a diverse range from an age perspective of customers?
Yeah, so it's we do have to be really clear in terms of our segmentation. We've got personas for the brand. In terms of how we look at the tradie audiences, definitely got the younger, sort of more style conscious tradies coming through their apprenticeships up into their 20s that do want obviously the tough, durable work gear that will last them. They don't have to worry about it, but they want to look good too. And increasingly, they also wear it outside of work. So it could be to the pub in the evening or to adventure like camping, like you, mate, put on your Hard Yakka for this weekend. Wear it outdoors, wear it exploring, or work they're doing around the house. And then, we have the older segment. So being an old brand, we've got a lot of loyal customers that have, shopped with us for many, many years, and they're incredibly valuable and appreciated by us. They tend to exhibit different behaviours whereby they sort of know what they want. They've been wearing the same pair of Hard Yakka pants for 30 years, and they just want a no-nonsense experience where they can just access it when they need it. So how we, vary our messaging and experiences for them is becoming more tailored, especially as we're working more with Klaviyo and understanding our database and segments better and how we need to connect in with them. The lifestyle sort of cohort is again a different one where they're looking for different things. They're a bit more seasonal, more style focused in terms of what they're after. Other sort of behaviours that can be a bit more selective. They want to understand the different options available, like colourways, fabrics, sustainability also is a big one for that cohort. So certain messages that we definitely need to focus on for that demo, but trying to keep it simple, but segmented in the right way.
Yeah. I think my first introduction to the Hard Yakka brand myself as someone that moved here relatively recently was through, I think, your Thrills collaboration. I had a friend of mine that was wearing a Hard Yakka shirt, and I was like, what is this brand? Tell me more about it. And she was like, oh, you don't know. And so that was my first introduction. So is it collaborations like that you think have helped you guys branch into some of the lifestyle stuff, or how do you think about that?
Yeah, spot on. So that's a great example. Got some of it behind us here, actually. So we've done 3 capsules with Thrill, so the Byron Bay based sort of street and lifestyle brand. And really the opportunity there was to breathe, a modern spin onto a lot of our iconic vintage styles, which, their input has been invaluable. It's been really successful for both brands in terms of them moving into kind of a workwear offering, and for us, really getting Hard Yakka on the map for new audiences such as yourself, which is a bit unexpected, and we wanted to create that bit of surprise and delight in terms of where Hard Yakka is popping up and sort of making it relevant to new fans and followers. So it's been really successful in terms of getting the brand into the contemporary market.
Yeah, well, I've definitely noticed, and I would say it's working. So, so well done.
Tick. Good.
So we'll transition gears a little bit, kind of more into SMS specifically. It's a big part of what we're here to talk about today. And so I want to highlight a couple of things. So Klaviyo ran, a couple of just reports to understand, how are folks using SMS today? Where are those getting actually used in marketing strategies? And, one of the things that came out of that is about 86% of shoppers have made 2 or more purchases in the last year, specifically through branded SMS. And that's up about 55% from 2022. And so in APAC specifically, a lot of folks cited, the reason that they're trying to get SMS from brands is either for some sort of offer or discount. It could be some sort of unique product or experience, or maybe even just a conversational text message through, chatting with the brand's team directly. I want to get, from the two of you, your take. Justin, we'll start with you, but are you seeing similar trends?
Yeah, spot on. Still fairly early days for us with SMS, but definitely around offers, access to discounts, and particularly around key trade events. So your Black Fridays, end of financial year is a big one for us, and back to work. So we've seen a rapid uptake of SMS subscribers in the lead up to those events. And definitely correlates to what your report sort of found.
Yeah. What about you, Jason?
Yeah, it's definitely, it's an interesting one with a brand like Yakka, right? They're a core demographic of tradespeople. And these are people that are on their phones and on the go all day. They're going, from site to site. And even if they are just working on the one site, it's not as if they have a laptop and an iPad or something that they're hanging around with, right? They're on the tools, and they're using their phones maybe to collaborate or connect with other trades that are working on a project. So it makes a lot of sense for Yakka to play on that device and use SMS as the medium to do it. It's a tool that they're using. But then Justin mentioned before, you have this really broad range, right, of older tradespeople who are probably pretty cynical about any sort of marketing, really, through to younger demographics that have had that phone in their hands, for as long as they can remember, pretty much. So it's a very natural space for Yakka to play, which I think converts well. And interestingly, we've seen that the forms that are on the Yakka website to generate email subscribers, we're using Klaviyo's 2-step form tool so that SMS is on a second page after they initially put their email in. And the completion rate of the SMS page is over 90%, which is, pretty unheard of, right? As a, for that kind of 2-step process, but it shows you that it's a logical experience for Yakka's customers. They're looking at that and thinking, yeah, actually, it would just be easier if you sent me a text. So I think, the situational and side of it, as well as the customer demographic, it really lends itself to that. And if you're a brand that is similar, and you might think, oh, we've got a really older demographic, I don't think they would like SMS. Well, this is a perfect example of actually, if the context is right, it's exactly how they want to be spoken to.
Yeah, spot on.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting, and so many of the conversations that I have as someone that's actively promoting, hey, we should think about SMS, is one of the big pieces of feedback I get is, I don't know if my audience is the right fit for it, right?
Yeah.
I think this is a perfect example of you wouldn't necessarily expect an older generation to say, hey, this is the primary way that we communicate, right? So I think that's just so interesting of how it works.
And that, that's unincentivized as well, that form. It's not like we're having to give away extra discounts or anything like that to try and get that level of SMS subscription. And so, it does show, like you said, if you feel unsure about it, let your customers decide. It's not mandatory for Yakka. People can skip that step. It's right, the button's right there on the form, but people choose to not skip it and to complete it. And if you put the option out there and your customers are telling you, hey, actually, I want you to communicate to me using this channel, then it's the right tool to use.
Yeah. And I had another customer that I work with tell me that people only let very few brands into their SMS inbox, right? And so I think it speaks to the fact that if you have a really strong brand, right, and you treat that channel with respect and do it well, people will really reward you for that. So I think that's super interesting.
Yeah.
So I guess going off of that, so you talked a little bit about adding SMS into the form experience. And I think one of the other big pieces of feedback I get from folks is I don't want to spam my customers. I don't want to just send, spray and pray a bunch of SMS out and nobody cares about. So we've talked quite extensively about integrating SMS into the actual automated flows and that kind of experience. And so Justin, I'll start with you, but walk me through how you guys have thought about really adding in SMS to that flow experience.
Yeah, so I think being really clear in terms of how you want to use it, definitely applicability for your customer and your market is crucial. And with those types of opt-in rates, it tells us that our customers do want that choice and that option to start with. Then we want to use it in a couple of ways, really. So building into the flows, essentially we tend to lead with email, and SMS is really kind of that final prompt to get people across the line. We are very careful with our messaging and our copy with SMS and use it very selectively even in a flow. So rarely there'll be a flow with multiple SMSs one after the other. We want to mix it up strategically between email and SMS. And then also utilising it for campaigns too, which we can talk a little bit more about later. But I think your point around not wanting to be spammed is paramount here, and we are super mindful of that. Really cognizant that it's such an intimate experience, like form of communication with a customer. It's very overt on their phone. If your email inbox is filling up, you're less aware of it, but if your phone is just like dinging, you're very aware. So we want to be careful of that and not frustrate our customers. And so I think the strategy, and we'll talk a bit more around how we sequence and get that visibility, is really crucial.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jason, I know you guys have done a bunch of work to help refine that strategy and really test and iterate and kind of think about where that fits in the buyer's journey and for all of the Hard Yakka customers. So walk us through how you kind of think about that, how you go through that and have worked with them for that.
Yeah, I mean, Justin makes a really important point about where SMS is placed, and not just thinking about SMS as, well, if I've got email permission and I've got SMS permission, I should just send an email and an SMS, at every kind of stage. It's really about the channel and thinking about the context of how that channel is different for each customer. So I use the analogy sometimes that if you were trying to get someone's attention, you wouldn't tap them on both shoulders at the same time. So why would you send them an email and an SMS at the same time with the same message? More than likely, they're going to unsubscribe from one of those two channels because it's a really annoying experience. And which one are they going to unsubscribe from? Probably SMS. Which is really challenging because SMS can get that cut through that you need at the right time. And so it kind of is that ace in the hole that you want to have when you need it. And urgency, I think, is one of basically the biggest principles that you can think about when it comes to SMS. So, good examples are like with Hard Yakka. While we do send a welcome SMS to kind of introduce people to the channel when they first come in, you wouldn't get another welcome SMS from Hard Yakka until your coupon code when you sign up is expiring. And that's the sort of message that actually you'd probably be a bit annoyed if you missed, right? If it was in your inbox, but you had a busy day, you went home, you had a quiet night and you went to bed and you woke up the next day and found out your coupon code had expired, you'd be frustrated. But if you get that SMS letting you know, hey, midnight tonight, that coupon's going to expire, even if you're not going to use it, you're not going to be annoyed by getting that. And so that context makes a lot of sense. And then when you think about something like an abandoned cart series, similar thing. If you're going to send someone a coupon, maybe it's their first time shopping and you want to win them by sending them a coupon to complete their order, sending that coupon via SMS is perfect, right? It's going to get cut through and someone's going to be pretty happy to get a discount. But if you want to communicate to that customer maybe some product reviews about that product and some UGC and testimonials about how good the product is, that type of message is perfect in an email format. You want it to be visual, you want to have longer copy, you want it to be engaging. You shouldn't be trying to squeeze that into an SMS and kind of force the experience, right? Send that via email. So having those two channels play together, and it's a unique thing that you can do with Klaviyo really easily because both email and SMS are in the same platform and you're in that one flow builder and you're actually able to visually create a journey where those emails and SMS are going at different times and maybe they're only being triggered on different behaviors. It makes it a real advantage when you're using Klaviyo to be able to have that experience really simply.
I think also to see the analytics at each stage of the flow as well. Super simple, so you can continually optimize and make sure that you've got it right for your customers.
Yeah. Allowing you to compare those stats is really important because that's how you ultimately measure success.
Yeah. So if I'm one of our listeners right now and you guys just covered a ton of ground, which is huge, where do I start? Like, how do I start thinking about that journey, right? If I'm maybe just looking at email today, or I've kind of treated email and SMS as separate channels, like, where does one start that journey?
I would say with automation is a great place to start because it is behavioral, right? And it makes sense. So I would say if you've got your pop-up on your website right now and you're using Klaviyo, just go in and add that second frame for SMS. It's not going to take you that long to do. You can make it optional, and it's not going to have any impact on your email subscribe rate because it's on that next page. So it's not really going to functionally change anything for you today for people that are seeing that pop up and putting in their email. Other than you might start also collecting SMS, and you might even be surprised by how many mobile numbers you start collecting. So that's step one. And then step two, I think, is looking at those really key journeys, your welcome journey, your abandonment journey. How can you incorporate SMS there in a way that's going to feel natural? Obviously, sending a welcome SMS to introduce them to the channel. Justin made a really good point before about expectation setting as well with the channel. That message is a perfect place to let someone know, hey, we're only going to message you when a new collection drops or when a major sale starts, or if it's a coupon code or transactional message. Then a customer can feel secure that they know, okay, well, I'm not going to get bombarded, and that sets the expectation really nicely. And then you just stick to that promise. Abandonment, high urgency, perfect place to get going with it. And then you can just test it out and see. Klaviyo, the pricing plans are very easy at that level. You could start off for free, and then up to 150 messages, it's $15 a month. It's very easy to just test the waters there and see how it performs for you as a channel. So that'd be where I'd start. And then as you build your confidence and you can see the analytics coming through, you can then start introducing it into those key campaign periods, those big collection launches, major sales.
The only thing I'd add to that is having a carefully mapped out flow of all your comms touch points pre and post purchase. That's been really helpful to work with Andzen on having a clear strategy in place and an actual map where we know this communication is going to the customer at this point via this channel. Because I can tell you firsthand, as soon as you start opening up all these comms channels, you're doing surveying, sort of feedback requests, it can get very complicated very quickly. So it's really important that you stay top of mind as to what the customer's receiving when, and to make sure that that is phased out strategically for the best experience.
Yeah. And I imagine that changes over time, right? And you're probably not going to get it all right the very first time, right?
Yeah.
And so a big part of this, I think, is how you collect feedback from your customers and how you listen to them. And so, Justin, I'm curious, as you've set all of this up and worked with Andzen to do that, what are the ways you're listening to your customers and changing?
Yeah, it's super important. I think there's two methods here that we use. One's the observational analysis, and the other one would be the active capture of feedback, actually asking your customers for how's things going, what can we be doing better. For the observational analysis, I think active analysis, so spending the time in the platform or working with a partner where you can go in there and it's not just a set and forget. You do need to be going back in, or having a team that can go back in to check how things are performing, see how different segments are responding to different comms, because there's a lot of moving pieces, but you want to be continually evolving what you're doing. And as you said, make sure that the strategy is evolving with the data and the learnings that you're getting. So we're obviously spending a lot of time in Klaviyo itself, and then coupling that with ecom metrics for the behaviors we're seeing on our website, as well as through a lot of our digital media and the type of response rates to certain messages and timings there as well. In terms of the active sort of data capture, like asking people for the feedback, run pre-purchase and post-purchase surveys using like Hotjar on the website, NPS product reviews we've recently built into the post-purchase experience as well. So we're continuing to evolve that space, but I think opening the door to hear and listen to your customer is really crucial. And not all feedback is great to hear. There's stuff in there that you're like, we need to get on top of that, but at least we know and we can do something about it. So it's really a gift. My team literally looks at every point of feedback, notifications set up, everything we're hearing from a customer comes through. And the benefit of being internally quite a small agile team is, while we're looking for bigger trends as to what's happening with the customer, we can also be quite agile and tactical and just go and just solve stuff, little points of friction on the go. And then a lot of the feedback we've sort of built in from customers to the projects with Andzen as well. So on a larger scale, making sure that we're really optimizing our flows. A lot of that feedback has been around the timing of certain messages and what makes sense for the customer. Where we haven't got that right occasionally, then yeah, we know we can go back in and adjust it. And that process is really important because what we've set up, we want to continue to be increasingly valuable for us into the future.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. That cycle is always quicker than I expect it to be. It's every like 3 to 6 months. You have to iterate and you have to really try to improve on that. But I think that's so important to continue to get that customer feedback. I don't know, Jason, anything in particular that you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think something that Justin touched on there, the idea of the like passive and active kind of collection of data. Sometimes it can be really daunting for a brand, especially if you've got a brand that's been around for a few years, to think, well, I want to start with segmentation, but I've never really asked any questions of my customers before. How am I going to understand my previous customers? What can I do to understand new customers? You can be thinking of 100 different ideas, but it's quite overwhelming and daunting. Actually, what I would say is you can use platforms like Klaviyo to pretty quickly and pretty easily just look at past behaviors to create some really simple ideas of segments. A really simple one with a brand like Yakka is just looking historically at people who've shopped men's versus women's, right? It's pretty easy to then just label some interest categories in men's versus women's, especially if they've only ever shopped from one of those two categories. Things like preference around order size or maybe even average order value, right? Location, all of these things that the data sits in there in your account already. It's just about creating some segments to surface it. And doing that, like taking from that data that you've passively collected, is a great way to start thinking about segmentation. And then you can just start thinking about, well, what are some things that I want to do in the future? Is it maybe planning for a collection? Are you wanting to know things about preference in cut or sizing? Maybe you could work that into some sort of post-purchase survey for loyal customers. Or is it something more specific? Is it something around the makeup of a family, if you're wanting to know if they're interested in children's wear as well as adult products that you've got on the website, or particular problem needs for skincare or things like that. Those are really perfect opportunities to use things like quiz tools or survey tools. And a lot of the time it's easy for us to get a bit down on ourselves as a brand and say like, well, who's going to do a quiz of mine? Who's really going to fill out a survey? Who wants to do that? But the reality is, and you probably know this as a consumer, when a brand reaches out to you and says, I want to make your experience with my brand better, can you tell me just 2 or 3 things about you so that I can more personalize what I send you? For a lot of people, that's a real indication of trust. That's an indication that the people that are steering that brand actually care about their customers and are interested. And that's the sort of thing that builds engagement, not annoys people.
It's so interesting. It's like building relationships at scale. And how do you build relationships? You learn a little bit about each other.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what has that like process been? And obviously you guys, Justin, decided to do SMS within Klaviyo and email. How has having that all in one place helped like evolve that experience for your customers?
So yeah, it just gives us a centralized view, having it all together. And when it comes back to the sequencing and the plan, how you manage it holistically, it's so much easier. Like everything is pretty user-friendly, straightforward, easy to understand. You can measure it holistically too, instead of having to sort of aggregate data after the fact. And really, it comes down to that sophisticated experience that it unlocks as well. Klaviyo is great in terms of being able to feed a lot of information into it, plays really nicely with a lot of other tools, which means we can get the data in there, as you were mentioning, to then be more strategic with what we're doing with it.
Absolutely. So we've covered a lot of ground here, and I think one of the things that I'm picking up out of this is Jason, you have an absolute wealth of knowledge on not just Klaviyo, but the industry and how kind of all of this process works. So like, why does somebody come to Andzen? Like, walk us through, like, hey, why is it that someone brings a partner into their organization?
Yeah, I mean, in Yakka's example, it was a little bit before Black Friday last year, pretty close to Black Friday last year, and basically the ask was, we want to stand up SMS and we want to use Black Friday as a real reason to get that going, and we need help to do it right. And the value of being able to work with an agency like ours is that because we're doing this every day, we know all those things that you just don't know about, collecting consent, how to use the channel, how to get it set up, what are the strategies that you can implement that aren't going to feel invasive for a customer, or like you're just trying to get more out of them so you can market more to them, right? We can turn those projects around quite quickly for a merchant because we understand all those foundational things, and we can cut through a lot of the learning you would have to do yourself if you were trying to get up to speed quickly. But the other area is that while yes, obviously we're experts when it comes to Klaviyo and these channels, we're also experts at delivering projects, right? That's what we do. So when it comes to being able to say to a brand like, okay, leave this project with us, here's the tools on how you can keep an eye on where we're at with tasks, here's the meeting cadence, the WIP documents, all of that infrastructure around completing a project. We have processes for all of that. And so you're able to hand that work off and have an eye or line of sight to how it's getting done, but also have the confidence that it's getting done right. Those two things, particularly in a high stakes time of year like Black Friday, are really invaluable.
Yeah. And Andzen's, you guys were one of our very first elite partners in the world, which I think is so interesting. And so, Justin, as you said, hey, I think I want to bring in some help, how did you make the decision to go with Andzen, and what made you really decide that, hey, I want to kind of go more with a certified Klaviyo partner?
Yeah, so for us, we faced some challenges in the database space. As Jace mentioned, we were trying to get a few things up and running on a pretty short deadline. Nothing like a bit of pressure, mate.
Yeah.
Did well.
Diamonds get
did
made,
well.
right?
We also had a lot of manual processes. We've got a fairly small team that are already doing a lot as well. And we definitely knew we could extract a lot more from our database. And I think also the increasing importance of your owned audiences is only getting greater the more you're trying to play in platforms that are so driven by cost and algorithms. It's really hard to control your own destiny and have a proper connection with your customers. So we knew we needed to do more and better in this space. And so it was pretty obvious for us we had to look externally, and if we're going to look externally, we want a top tier partner that makes our life easy, builds confidence and trust in the process and actually the delivery of what we're trying to accomplish. And I mean, I jokingly say it, but these guys can use Klaviyo with their eyes closed, I'm pretty sure. So they can show us what we don't know, and also point us in the right direction of opportunities. So in addition to getting SMS up and running quite quickly, we also wanted to unlock a lot more of the functionality between our web platform, which is Salesforce Commerce Cloud, and Klaviyo. We also wanted to build out a lot more post-purchase or flows to enhance the customer experience once they have signed up with us. And really, as I said, generate a lot more engagement and traction with those owned audiences.
Yeah. And I think the decision to bring on a partner can often be a bit of a stressful one. And so I guess, like personally, Yakka is such an iconic brand. And one of the big pieces of feedback that I hear when it's like, do I bring on a partner, do I not, is can I give over some sort of, not brand control, but are they going to know my brand as well as I do, right? And that's really an extension of the team. And so how do you, what made you say, hey, you know what, I'm going to build that trust to do that?
Yeah, so first of all, I went to someone that's actually bought some Yakka gear first, lives and breathes it. Yeah. No, I think, in all honesty, it's, we just want to, the trust is important to us. The willingness to work with us and accommodate our brand and our ambitions and understand that properly is paramount. And the Andzen team, through a series of inductions, really made the effort to understand us and get what the challenge ahead looks like. And to your point about stress and workloads before, in my job, in my team's job, we are often really stretched across a lot of different projects. And we decided we needed a partner that can actually help reduce our stress levels and workloads. We want our life to be easier. Mm-hmm. That's why we bring on a partner, and we want to have confidence that they can deliver what we need, which Andzen has been able to do, which is fantastic. So, and I'm also personally a big believer in investing in your partnerships as well. So like any relationship, you often get out what you put in, right? So I think that really close and genuine collaboration is really important for us in our brand.
So you guys now go to Bunnings together on the weekends?
Pretty much, yeah. Subcontract him out to come around to help with the gardening,
Very good. I'm sure you put up a beautiful fence in your backyard.
Yeah, it's going downhill. Long decision.
So obviously you guys brought in Andzen at like a super critical time of the year last year, right? And kind of the lead up to the BFCM period. How did you guys think about like prepping for that, and then when all was said and done, how'd it go?
Yeah, so we had our biggest Black Friday, Cyber Monday campaign on record, which is fantastic result for the brand. We did have a fairly tight timeline, which is where agility was crucial. But essentially, it was really important to start as far in advance as we could, especially with like our email databases, nurturing your lists as well. So we had it hooked up to be feeding in leads through Meta lead ads, the Google plugins as well, to start building up those bases. And we had a series of comms in the lead up to start engaging those audiences, warming them up well ahead of the event. So it wasn't just like you suddenly heard everything from us across like 4 days when you hadn't heard a peep from us in the lead up. That also gave us a good insight into how our messaging was resonating, especially for our newer subscribers, especially for those coming on board with SMS, given that was a new space for us. So when it came to those crucial moments, we had a really clear and sort of data-backed strategy around what is the right message for what segment across that Black Friday, Cyber Monday weekend.
Yeah. And Jason, how did you guys think about it? You walk in, you say, hey, I got a relatively tight timeline. What are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a Black Friday, Cyber Monday is such a motivating time of year, right? So it was relatively easy for us to look at an opportunity with SMS where we could provide some slightly different value, particularly for trade customers. So we were able to look at like what is something tangible that they can get out of SMS. And for Hard Yakka, it was getting that instant message, that early access, but via being subscribed in that SMS channel, and then basically making good on that promise, getting people in as soon as the sale was live, making sure that they weren't going to miss out on products essentially that were going to sell out, if they got an email, they didn't check it until 5 o'clock when they finished work. So it was a really great campaign. The stats were really impressive. We generally see a 2 times higher click rate with campaigns, SMS campaigns, than email campaigns for Hard Yakka. And even more recently with the end of financial year campaign, the final SMS on the last day actually had a 7 times higher click rate than the email that we sent, saying that the sale was ending that night. So when you put that in context, right, the impact and traffic that you're driving is really, really significant. You're talking about the difference of an extra few thousand people on your website.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think that goes back to your point around urgency and using SMS at the right time, the right moment. I guess what we also, from a brand perspective, we're cognizant of is the fact during those key trade periods, everyone's email inbox is absolutely flooded, yet often your phone isn't going off as much as well. So we did see it as a space to play, especially within our competitive set, to reach customers at the right time, which has been crucial through not only Black Friday, but then into back to work is another big trade period for us, as is end of financial year, as Jace mentioned. So really good to have opened up that channel and to have a really solid foundation for future events.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think about like 70 or 80% of the sales that are done on a Black Friday, Cyber Monday are for brands that you already know and that you're already participating with, right? And so it's pretty rare actually that you'll get a huge influx of new people or new customers that are potentially coming into the brand. And I know a lot of my friends and coworkers often will plan pretty far in advance, like what are the major purchases that I'm going to make on that period, right? So there is this whole like process of prep that comes in to say, hey, when the day comes, you already know what you're doing, right? And so it's really just how do you, as a brand and as a marketer, really execute on making sure that 1, they know, but then 2, when the day comes, it's go time, right?
And we can show them that we know them during those moments too. So where in the past we'd be doing quite a blanket message across those events, we're now able to segment it more, right? So you're giving dynamic products, serving products that they like, that from past purchase behaviour to get greater cut through and a better experience for those customers.
Yeah.
Even being able to shorten the shopping experience, right, by being able to send an SMS to women versus men, and then shop the sale page filtered for women or filtered for men. You know, you just take a click or two out of that shopping journey for the customer, and it has a real tangible impact on how many more customers will make it to that next stage.
Yep.
Yeah. And I know you guys have done a whole lot of work on that, right? Like personalization, not just in who gets what, but actually what you're showing to customers. And so walk me through a little bit about some of the learnings you've got from that and some of those results that you've seen.
Do you want to start?
Yeah. I mean, I think for Hard Yakka, probably the starkest kind of example of that is their onboarding journey, the welcome series for new subscribers. So introducing gender into the pop-up was very new for Hard Yakka when we did that, but we started proactively asking people what their shopping interest was, male or menswear or women's wear effectively, and then depending on what they answer, the content that they're seeing in that email, you know, features women's wear or men's wear, and if they don't answer, there's a generic version that features both. And so we've got all those three options in the welcome flow, and it's very interesting, like you were saying before, about having the stats all in one place. You can really see how stark the difference in engagement is. While the open rate is relatively consistent amongst them, the click rate of the gendered version is double the click rate of the non-gendered version. And I think the placed order rate is about 3 times higher for the gendered version than the non-gendered version. So if you want to like stat that you can draw a line under to say, well, like really how big of an impact would it be if it was shop footwear versus shop men's footwear or women's footwear? Well, it's about 3 times. So, you know, what would you do for 3 times more sales? Would you take the extra hour it might take to make a copy of that email and, you know, put a gendered specific version out into market? It's well worth it.
And just to paint a bit more context to that strategy as well, there has been a broader trend of more women entering the trade workforce. We get a lot more visitation across our digital properties from women who are looking for workwear, and so it's definitely something that we need to cater for in a much more extensive way. We're doing it through product design and innovation, through fitting and fabrics, as I mentioned earlier, but then also through our comms and personalisation. Yes, it is a fairly straightforward split, but it's really important, and it's where our brand's up to now in the market, is that we need to be accommodating both men and women in different ways to get greater growth moving forward.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And if there was just one takeaway, I think that is just a crazy stat to think about.
It's simple, but it's logical, you know, like you'd think about it just for yourself, right? If you were signing up and the brand took the time to ask what version of the product are you interested in, and you have faith then that you're going to be sent new products that align with that, you have that extra bit of confidence that every time you open that email or you click that link, you're going to get a more personalized experience that just fits you. It takes that kind of thinking of, oh, like it's so hard to navigate, or I don't really have time to go shopping right now, versus thinking like, oh, actually I know every time I click one of these links, I see something that I like.
Yeah. And I'm curious too, and you alluded to before, I think you guys are using Salesforce Commerce Cloud as kind of the back end of your site. I know the Andzen team did a bunch of work on that integration itself to unlock a whole bunch of data access for you and your team. And so I'm curious, and I'm not sure who the best person to answer this question. Maybe Jason, we'll start with you. But what did that upgrade entail, and what did that give the brand access to that maybe they didn't have before?
Yeah, so Salesforce obviously is a big beast of a product, and so they're, you know, integrating with them has changed over the years as APIs have changed and developed, and Klaviyo has a newer version of their cartridge. Is the kind of lingo they use for the Klaviyo's app, which you can install. And so we went through an upgrade project with Hard Yakka to get them on that newer version of the cartridge, and what that allowed us to do was open up some of the more traditional flows that, say, a Shopify or Magento customer might be used to, you know, not just having an abandoned checkout flow, but adding those added to cart flows as well, that in between stage between browse and making it to checkout. But it also allowed us to pull more data out of Salesforce too. So the Hard Yakka team, they have a members section of the website, and previously we weren't able to get that membership data out of Salesforce and into Klaviyo. And so we kind of were falling short a bit on delivering that more bespoke experience for those people. But by upgrading the cartridge, we're able to add those extra flows, but then also add that extra layer of personalization for people that are members versus non-members.
So what has that unlocked for you and your team now that you can get some of that members data, just kind of more of those experiences? How has that changed the way that you guys have actually put together some of those customer journeys?
Well, so we can actually create fully cohesive experiences for our most valuable customers now. And then even for the broader base of shoppers, like being able to rebuild carts. And so when you're jumping back into the experience, we've just reduced so much friction. It was fairly, it was a bit clunky for our customers at the start. So with the latest upgrade and then now seeing what data is coming through and how we can use it, really refining our comms, our segmentation and delivery, has been able to make it smoother for our customers, which has resulted in some really good results for all our key campaign periods, as well as just the general iterative growth of the flows that we have running at the moment.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And I think that just having access to data, and that's really what we talk a lot about at Klaviyo's end, is the more data you have, the more strategic you can be, the more personalized you can get. And so I think that's a huge unlock.
And I think it's also it's bi-directional between Salesforce and Klaviyo for us as well, because we're communicating with groups of our customers that we want to then create personalized experiences when they come back to the site. And so for our members, when they visit the site, they do see different content once they've logged in to the site. So now we can unlock that. We can link from Klaviyo through to a personalised experience on the site. And so it works both ways, which is particularly powerful.
Yeah. Awesome. Now, I know Yakka is an old brand, right? Not old, but you guys have been around for ages. But you're a small team, right? And I know you guys often think about doing more with less. And so how have you thought about using kind of AI and testing, within whether at Klaviyo or in general to kind of help scale some of the efforts that you're doing both across your team and then with the Andzen team as well?
So AI, I think from a marketing team perspective, a lot of what we do use is what's built into the platforms that we're already up and running on. So for Klaviyo, it's a lot of our subject line testing. So we test various elements from subject lines to body copy to timing of emails to the segmentation. But when it comes to creating variants of your subject line quickly for the amount of emails that we're sending, and we're not sending a massive amount. There's a lot of retailers out there that would be sending a lot more than us. It just makes that effortless. Like it can be up to 30 minutes a week that it's one less thing that your team has to look at doing. Those built-in functionalities are really crucial. We do a lot of testing through the website as well. So all your typical sort of merchandising, sorting rules, imagery, different sort of points of contact across the customer experience. And we try and keep it quite structured so that we can actually do something with the learnings. You can test everything and anything these days, but having a clear plan in place and to do it sort of step by step, we found makes it feasible and sustainable.
Yeah, very, very good.
Yeah, we're starting now to introduce more of the predictive analytics that Klaviyo has available. So we're looking to introduce that into post-purchase. And I mean, I think for every brand, it's a really relevant concept, but to kind of put it in perspective, when you think about a brand like Yakka, Justin talked earlier about the type of customers that are shopping maybe like once a year versus regularly. There is a subset of people that are coming every financial year right before tax season, and they're buying, 5 pairs of pants, they're buying 10 shirts, maybe a jacket or two, and that's the workwear for the next 12 months. And then there's other people that are engaging with that Thrills collection, and maybe they're building their wardrobe throughout the year regularly. Using Klaviyo's predictive analytics for those purchase dates, we're able to much more easily categorize those customers. And then to Justin's point about looking at the journey of where those emails are going to land, we can just take out the guesswork and not be bombarding that person that just is coming in once a year. And they're a super valuable customer because they have a really high AOV yearly, but it's just all in one go. Versus that other customer that maybe has the same AOV, but it's over 3 or 4 orders. So being able to use those two things effectively is really important. And then, more recently looking at things like RFM analysis and those segments, being able to bring that into the data too, to really start thinking about from a campaign perspective, are we doing our BAU? Sure, it's an engaged segment, but are we breaking that engaged segment down a bit further to understand, well, who's been a champion that's maybe filtered down that we need to re-engage and get back into that top tier, or who's maybe slipping into that at-risk segment. And yeah, this might be the Thursday email that we're going to send every week, but actually, is there something that we can do here to just give that edge for those different segments and make sure we're iterating that on that constantly?
Yeah. Well, I think honestly, just the way that you go through that, I think highlights some of the benefits of having a really tech savvy partner that just knows a whole lot about that. That's stuff that I've been at Klaviyo for 8 years, and some of that stuff is like, holy smokes, I don't even know that, I didn't know that I can get into that here. Well, look, we're coming close to time, so I'm gonna start to wrap us up here a little bit. But I'm curious from the Hard Yakka perspective, what are you guys focused on here in the near future, and how does that translate into what you guys will be doing with Klaviyo?
Yeah, so for us, the international expansion is continuing, as is our innovation amongst the women's ranges, as well as a lot of the sustainability sort of programs we're looking to incorporate and have done so in terms of fabrics and end-of-life management for garments. So some really important programs in terms of what it means for what we're doing with Klaviyo. So it's really focusing on the product reviews that we talked about earlier. How do we better incorporate that and I guess give our customers that social proof as to the quality and the durability of our workwear and safety boots, as well as harnessing the predictive analytics. We've got some exciting work in the pipeline for that, which will be across the next few months. And then just continuing to work on that cadence of optimization. Just all those 1%ers, as Jace was just mentioning, really pay off and make a difference. So we don't want to become complacent there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm going to ask a quick question of you both. We have people of a whole different variety that are joining us today, from business owners to marketers. What's like one or two takeaways that you want to leave everybody with? And Justin, we'll start with you.
So yeah, I think to encapsulate a lot of what we've talked about today, have a really clear strategy, married up with the right tech stack, and everything speaking together. So we talk a lot about having data consistency, and it's a lot harder done than said. So that's worth the investment, and then building the right team around what you're trying to accomplish. So we've got the right partners in terms of Klaviyo, and then in terms of Andzen, so we can deliver on our goals.
Yeah, Jason, what about you?
For me, I'd say make use of the tools that Klaviyo has, but also make use of the training guides that Klaviyo has. Klaviyo has a really phenomenal learning center that has videos and step-by-step guides on how to use a lot of their features. And a lot of the features are really user-friendly. These are things that you could do even if you're an independent merchant owner, you're wearing every hat in the business. Some of these tools, like the forms tools, there's AI features in there now that allow you to just click a button and Klaviyo will take care of the A/B testing for you. So it's worth it to just have a read of those help guides and test things out, like the two-step form, and see if SMS is right for you. Test out some of these features to see how they could help you get that little bit of extra cut through with your customers. And then in terms of looking ahead, I think from sort of the smallest merchant using Klaviyo right through to the biggest brands using Klaviyo, advanced analytics as a new feature, being able to bring RFM analysis, funnel analysis into your regular sort of business marketing cycle is a massive advantage. A really perfect example is something like your abandoned cart flow. Being able to segment by those RFM segments and only give discounts to people that are in that at-risk segment, let's say, and not to your champions. Or maybe to your champions, if you have a loyalty program, give them a reminder to refer a friend and get a discount instead of just giving them a discount, but someone at risk who isn't part of the program, maybe that you do give them a voucher if you want to win them back. You can really easily start making smart decisions that defend your margins, make sure that your marketing is as profitable as possible, right? Not just as high revenue generating as possible. And Klaviyo makes that really easy to do. So advanced analytics would be something I'd say everyone should be looking at.
Yeah. Well, I think that's time for us. So thank you both so much for taking time out of your day, your week, for this conversation today. I've learned a ton. I hope everybody that's joined us has learned a lot as well. If you're interested in learning more, head on over to klaviyo.com, and we'll also send out a whole bunch of materials after this as well for everybody here. But thank you both so much, and we'll get wrapped up.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mitch.